Okay, awesome. Chapter 5, right? So now we're going to be getting into getting the mandate and valuation dynamics. Okay, look, getting the mandate and valuation dynamics does not seem as complicated as it sounds. It's only you asking someone for their business. That is it, right? The mandate, for those who don't know, is just an agreement or permission for you to advertise a landlord or seller's property. Okay, in exchange, of course, in that instance, you earn a commission from closing that transaction. You don't earn a commission from getting the mandate and putting it on Property 24. And, you close it, or you earn commission from getting that mandate, advertising it. Okay, getting it to a point where someone finds interest in it. So much that you can get the opportunity to then move them from being a cold lead to a warm lead to a hot lead, and to ultimately close the transaction and the deal. Right? So which is why handling objections and closing transactions, that particular training is very important. So please go back to that. Right? I'll keep on saying this until my face turns blue. Right, but let's move on. Securing the source. Okay, this is ultimately you getting the source. Well, the source is the contract. It's you securing the contract. You get that by going out in the marketplace, asking someone for their business, having an agreement, a signed agreement. Okay, if Herbert can put it somewhere here, I'll put you a picture of what an agreement looks like. If he doesn't, it's a mandate. Just text me and I'll send it to you. Okay, it's just an agreement to say you are, or the landlord's giving you permission to sell this particular property at X amount price, and this is how much you're going to charge them for commission, and they've signed, which is very important because we need that. We cannot market anyone's property without a mandate. It's very important. Now you can treat a landlord texting you to say, hey, look, move forward, let's do it, right? And the agreement via text as permission, but you still need to get them to sign an actual agreement because discrepancies can come about, and you're not protected if you do not have a mandate. That's M-A-N-D-A-T-E, mandate. Ask, I probably already sent you mandates, but if I haven't, ask me, I'll send you even more. Go through them so you can understand exactly what it means to have a mandate. It's a very special thing. Okay, it's very special when someone can trust you with their property, which would have cost them, could have cost them multi-millions of rands, and they've given it to you because you ultimately have asked for the business. So it's your job to make sure you do it right, to earn the business, but of course, help them with what they've come to you for. Okay, so preparing for an appointment. Now, preparing for an appointment just really comes down to you being at, of course, the appointment, early, showing up prepared, understanding that you need to do an evaluation of anyone's property before you actually meet them. Okay, 10 times out of 10, you would have already sent them a desktop evaluation. Now I'll create a section privately, or ultimately I'll record it on my laptop, where I'll show you how to extract a property evaluation and use that to give information to a seller before you meet. Okay. Now the initial part is that. The second part, of course, is then preparing yourself to go to them with enough information that you would have found, on the web, so that you know exactly how you or what you're going to sell the property for or lease it out for. But it's ultimately you just taking the time to understand what the market is saying right now for that particular property, so that when you do get to that meeting, you can then come to an agreement on paper with the landlord on the spot. Okay. But again, this always begins way before you actually meet the person. Okay? But I want you to understand that you're going to need to prepare for that appointment, prior to even having it. Okay, so the pre-meeting property research, again, exactly what I've just said right now. Okay, just doing an evaluation either via Lightstone or via Property 24, which is the biggest listing platform in the country right now. And those two combined can give you a good indication of what can sell, how much it can sell for, and what you can achieve for the landlord based on your expertise. Now, never ever base result based on what's on the market right now. Okay, consider it, but also base it on your ability and what you can achieve. Whether you use the market as a benchmark of what you can achieve, but sell yourself as opposed to anything else, because it's you who's going to close, and you're going to close only by knowing how to handle people's objections and closing transactions. Okay, so rental appraisal, sales appraisal, and a comparable layout. Now, a rental appraisal and a sales appraisal, you do them the exact same way you use Lightstone, okay, to understand the value of the property, well, really when it comes to sales, but you also then use Property 24 and any listing website to actually understand what's on the market and what it can go for. Now, most times, or 0 times out of not, if you're watching this and you understand the American market, you know, listing platforms like Zillow, for instance, will actually show you how much property leased for, not what it's advertised for, what the contract amount was actually for, or what they go for, right? As opposed to Property 24, it just shows you what an agent would have put down there, which could mean nothing if you actually go down to people researching and making decisions based on what's on the market. So what you need to now do is either be among the people like myself who understand which region, what can be achieved, where and where. But again, never really consider price as a factor for most people, but you also want to understand what's going on so you can be on the ball when you give projections to your seller or your landlord, right? Now with the sales appraisal, similar in the sense you lose a Lightstone, you get you get an actual comparable number, right? Based off sales that have happened in the past year or two on that particular report that will give you an average market value. It also gives you the municipal value of the property. With those two combined, plus of course the third factor, which be what's being listed and what's actually sold on Property 24, not what can be achieved, but it's also a bit of a catch-22, if I can use that phrase, because what has been sold versus what's on the market when it comes to sales can be trickery, because agents may do valuations incorrectly or take on at a price that the landlord says they want, right? And put it on the market, and you know it can distort what the actual market is saying today. So just consider that you need to use more than one confluence to give a prediction as to what amount you can achieve, and most times than not, what's been sold can then determine what you could sell it for, but it's not the determining factor. Again, the determining factor is you and your ability to have someone agree, because price is never a factor, right? What is a factor is what you can find out from the next person enough to know if this particular product at this price satisfies them, whether it costs 10, 5, 15 or 20 million. It's your job to find out if that person can justify paying that amount of money for that particular product that you have. Okay, so market value versus owner demands, just like the example I made for you, right? Those are two different things, right? Most landlords don't know what's going on in the market, but some do, right? But it's your job to be able to differentiate to what they want versus what can be achieved. Okay, enough for you to come to an agreement on an amount that you ultimately, with your ability, know you can achieve for them, right? Because again, you do nothing if you do not come to a closed transaction. You would have done nothing for the seller or the buyer if you do not come to an agreement, and you would have ultimately done nothing for you. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, the power of exclusive. Okay, so pitching exclusive mandates. Now, in your position, I would say do not let a mandate being exclusive hold you back from taking the opportunity at this point for you. Okay, because you need to get your feet wet. You need to get in the business. You need to get a sale. You need to build momentum, and you do that by coming into an agreement. So if you're starting out and the landlord says, "Yeah, look, you can sell it, you can lease it for me, but I have a couple of other agents," be like, "Good, absolutely. In fact, even if you had more, I'd still take the opportunity because I believe in myself more than anything else." So that sort of attitude would help you get the agreement anyway, but you just having that ultimately means that it wouldn't hold you back, and you need to have that for you, not necessarily for them, because again, you need to get your feet wet, you need to get some momentum, and you need to close a deal, right? And you only close a deal when you have an opportunity, not when you are, considering whether you should do it closed or open or not. It's when you have an opportunity. That's the only time that you get, right, to make a living in this industry. Okay, so completing the agreement correctly, it's really dumbs down to the actual mandate itself, but that we can deliberate on once you come to that position, and I'll leave that for the PDF. Okay, it's all listening or handling listing friction. Okay, all right, so valuation realignment really comes down to you doing an assessment every either 2 weeks or weekly or monthly as to what interest have you gotten from that particular price point you've got it on, or if you need to adjust something in relation to your marketing. But you need to be wary about going back to your seller or your landlord every couple of weeks or every week to ensure that you can still come to an agreement if you need to reduce the price to attract the right people. Okay, and then I'll leave you with this particular quote. He who controls the listing distribution holds absolute leverage over the market ecosystem. Protect your fees by demonstrating analytical value and never compromise on exclusive listing security. You know what that means. Let's move on to the next slide.